My name's Sophie Tidman. I'm the Professional Services Manager here at ChangeBASE, and I'm going to be taking you through virtualization with AOK, as well as some of the more generic questions and challenges around virtualization. So just to go through the agenda of what we'll be covering during the session today, first of all, we'll go through a background to ChangeBASE. We'll take a look at how AOK can help, and we'll go through the various modules of AOK and look at where it fits in to the overall migration process. We'll really be focusing in on the virtualization aspects, of course, today. But I will take you through the whole migration process with virtualization in mind. We'll look at the AOK product family. We'll look at the various virtualization migration challenges before we summarize and then go through a technology demonstration. So first of all, let's look at the background of ChangeBASE. Here at ChangeBASE, we're the software author of AOK, Applications OK, which is the market leader in automated application compatibility testing and remediation. We've been around since 2006 and launched our beta in February 2007. We launched the full product in October 2007, which quite nicely coincided with the time at which I joined the company. And then at that time, we had a primarily US and UK customer base. We already had quite a number of partners and customers we were working with. And we grew from being mostly UK and US to now being a global organization through our partners and working across a number of different sectors, both private and public, right across the world. So although a lot of our business, as you can imagine, is in North America and EMEA, we also have a lot of business through our partners in Asia Pacific, Australasia, India and South Africa. Our key focus is obviously to help our customers and partners reduce costs, simplify processes, speed up deployments and improve the quality and consistency of applications, both when migrating to a new platform as well as when managing ongoing business as usual application packaging and management. Now let's take a look at how AOK can help. Our key business goals are really around reducing migration costs, reducing risk, and reducing and simplifying processes. And where we're doing that, we're reducing migration costs by dramatically reducing the amount of time it takes to test applications to move them onto a new platform. We're also reducing costs by using fewer resources and getting the job done faster, which is quite often the goal nowadays. We're being pushed to complete projects quicker. We may start the project a little bit later than anticipated, and therefore, we're often helping our customers achieve their goals with quite tight constrictions. Clearly also is for the project to be a big success. We don't want to create application packages that are then going to fail post-deployment. That will lead to escalated costs that are quite often very difficult to ascertain. Our key focus really is to ensure that our packages are going to work well after assessment and fixing, and that there won't be any support issues or post-development challenges. We also need to reduce the risk by offering consistent and accurate reporting, comprehensive analysis, consistent and high-quality packages, and all of that must be traceable through logging, through package history, which is absolutely what we offer. We also want to simplify processes. So to do that, clearly automation is key. to be able to automatically test and fix compatibility issues before deploying applications vastly simplifies the processes, and it also speeds up the deployment. In terms of unique capabilities, we are a trusted provider. We're a Microsoft Gold partner, and we've got hundreds of successful migration projects, both to Vista and Windows 7, under our belts. Those projects have been wide and varied, but the great thing about how we work is that we've put hundreds of thousands of applications through AOK, whether vendor supplied or custom built applications of all different types. And with that, we've gained huge amounts of experience in the past 4 or 5 years. That experience has gone back into the tool to constantly improve it. 12 of the top 20 FTSE 100 are using AOK, which I think is a pretty significant achievement, and really demonstrates that we are a trusted provider. Our application knowledge base is also critical in our unique capabilities. You get red, amber, green reports from AOK, giving you detailed application information so that you can focus your resources on fixing issues and liaising with the business to communicate what those issues are and how they can move forward, rather than spending days or weeks trying to find issues or trying to work out what an issue was after the event. Automation is also one of our unique capabilities in the way that we use automation. We have a very strong percentage rate of issue identification. We identify at well over 98% of issues for Windows 7 and virtualization checks, and we solve around 95% of compatibility issues. Because we started out by offering automated fixing right from the start, this is something we've been doing for 4 or 5 years, and therefore we've got a wealth of experience in this area. And therefore we constantly strive to improve the consistency and quality of our customers' and partners' applications. So the key benefits are that AOK is easy to use. You can drag and drop your applications. You can also use a batch loading process. We offer rapid analysis using our logic-based checks. We have automation wherever possible. We try to automate as much as we can within reason to reduce the amount of time it takes. And we fix any issues that we can through transform files, so completely open architecture, and that is widely accepted by most enterprise customers as being the way forward. We've got comprehensive checking and fixing, both for desktop and virtual platform compatibility issues. And then we've got a business as usual element, in that you can use AOK to create your own checks, your own fixes, to help govern ongoing application management. And you can also use it in terms of the Manage It module to assess your application estate for any issues with incoming Windows updates and patches. Let's now take a look at where AOK fits into the migration process. With the migration process, it's pretty much the same across the board, no matter what you're trying to achieve. The first thing is really identifying what packages are out there, identifying what you need, which then comes into the planning and rationalization piece. Identifying what you need may go through several different iterations of rationalization, and once you've determined what you need, you can assess the compatibility of your applications using AOK. AOK, however, can also be used pre-rationalization to determine which applications should move forward, which applications are going to go through onto Windows 7 or into the virtual solutions that you wish to use. So AOK can be used before and after. And then once you've assessed your applications for their compatibility with the target platform, you will then want to remediate any issues and incorporate those into your package before you then create the final package format, which may be in a virtual format, and then deploy those virtual applications. Obviously, we need to go through UAT process before we deploy, and the cycle of events is thus that once you've gone through the UAT process, you've deployed the application, you're then also going to need to manage that application in an ongoing way. So you'll need to apply updates and patches as they become available, and so the cycle goes on. So we help out really around the assessing of compatibility, fixing and packaging, pre-UAT, as well as management. We're also looking at hooking into inventory tools for the identification phase, and we're also looking into hooking into deployment tools as well. So putting that into the context of AOK and the AOK modules, here we can see all the modules that AOK offers. You can see the process that fits alongside those modules at the top there. The first module in question is a module called VReady-It. VReady-It allows us to load any type of application into the AOK workbench, and it allows you to pre-repackage those applications to get them into an MSI format to then be tested. TestIt allows us to test applications for their compatibility with a platform, and that's an OS platform in this case. So TestIt will allow you to test for compatibility with Windows 7, 64-bit, and also Windows Server 2008. Alongside that, you're typically going to need VReady-It. VReady-It will allow you to test your applications for their suitability with a virtualization platform. That may be AppV, Citrix XenApp, maybe VMware ThinApp, as well as Symantec SWV. You can also use that solution to establish what the best fit for your application portfolio will be. And then we have OfficeIt. OfficeIt allows you to test your applications for their suitability with the latest version of Office. And that really pertains to Office integrated applications. So that could be maybe an Outlook add-in, it could be an Excel add-in, depending upon what the business needs to use. And we can test for the integration points and their compatibility with the latest version of Office, and we can tell you what parts of the application will or won't work. VReady-It is our IE8 and IE9 testing capability, and VReady-It has three different ways of working. There are basically a kind of static analysis, there's a dynamic analysis, as well as a source code loading option as well for VReady-It. So it really takes all types of web application and website into account using one or many of those three different options. We then have QA-It, and QA-It allows you to write your own checks, modify existing checks, and also write your own fixes. So this has been widely used by our partners to automate the codification of packaging standards, where our partners need to meet very rigorous packaging standards supplied by the customer. The only way quite often of meeting SLAs is to automate the process. And obviously having a bunch of VB scripts, lurking on a server somewhere and people using them and updating them, and it's just not a very managed way of doing that. And therefore, we have a common framework within AOK to manage all checks and fixes and to have a standardized mechanism to govern them. Fix-It allows you to fix any issues that are in the amber category across Test It, Virtualize It, and QA It. Test It, Virtualize It, and QA It all have fixing associated with their checks, and we obviously report red, amber, and green applications. Where we have red issues, they generally pertain to the way in which an application works. It might be the underlying code or some APIs that are deprecated that's causing the issue. However, amber issues relate to either the application and the way in which it works, or also can relate to the installation. And we can fix most amber issues that we encounter across those groups. So I'll be taking you through some examples of that as we go through the demo in a moment. You'll also find Manage It amongst our suite of products. Manage It allows you to test for any issues with Windows and Office updates as they come down on Patch Tuesday. As soon as those patches and updates come down from Microsoft, we test them against our Application Compatibility Lab. We release a report, so it's definitely worth going to our website to check out the latest Patch Tuesday results, and that report will give you an overview of where the issues lie and what you need to be aware of this month. Beyond that, we then, within about a 12 to 24-hour period, will release our own checks, which will assess your applications for any possible issues with those Windows updates that may cause problems. It will allow you to then focus any testing that you need to undertake on the specific areas that will be affected. This saves vast amounts of time, and although it's often a different team that handles Office and Windows updates, it's it saves a lot of time, and it also allows you to test all applications rather than just the business critical applications that are traditionally tested, and that's generally not sufficient to do a thorough job. Now, one of the key aspects of the session today is going to be VReady-It. VReady-It allows you to take your remediated application that you've run through, convert it, test it, virtualize it, fix it, and it allows you to convert it into a virtual application. So we're going to be taking a look at that today. Currently we support Symantec SWV and AppV for that solution, and we're also working on support for ThinApp, VMware's ThinApp, and Citrix as well. So let's take a look at some of those solutions. Convert It, just to recap, allows you to convert any type of application, legacy or otherwise, into an MSI industry standard. That allows us to not only load it into our database for testing, but it will also, in the next version, allow us to create an installable MSI. It will allow us to remediate that installable MSI, and effectively, if you look at the whole picture, you'll be able to load any type of application in and produce any type of application at the other end, whether it's a fixed MSI that you want or whether it's a virtual package. So anything in, anything out is really the goal. Test It allows you to quickly identify migration issues. Testing several thousand applications generally takes around, between an hour or two, depending upon the size of the applications, depending upon the hardware that the solution is run on. But typically we would expect to run between 3,000 and 5,000 applications in an hour and a half to 2 hours. By quickly being able to identify migration issues, you can really focus your efforts and make informed decisions on timescales and costs, identify compatibility issues before running apps through UAT, and be able to grade your applications, making prioritization easier. So you'll be able to highlight any applications that you don't need to relicense, replace, or test. Fix-It allows you to fix any Amber issues using transform files. And Virtualise-It allows you to assess your applications for virtualization suitability. VReady-It actually does the conversion piece, as we mentioned earlier. So with 4.1, which is our current release, we've got support for AppV and Symantec SWV. In 4.2, which is coming out later this year, we'll be supporting VMware, ThinApp, and Citrix as well. Let's take a look at some of the migration challenges. And if we look at Windows 7, for Windows 7 32-bit, we're looking at around 5% of applications that come up with red issues, around the 60% mark Amber, 35% green. For Windows 7 64-bit, obviously the number of reds goes up because there are quite a number of drivers that are not written for 64-bit platforms. Also, 64-bit doesn't support 16-bit, so if you've got any 16-bit files or API calls being used, they will not run, will not be supported on the 64-bit platform. So you're looking at around the 10% mark that will be red, around the same that will be amber, and obviously around the 30% mark, which will be green on Windows 7 64-bit. Where you find amber issues, the top amber issues were legacy help files, UAC, unnecessary UAC prompts, custom action security issues where custom actions would not run due to not having sufficient privileges assigned to them, CPL files, and our old favorite that's actually not on this slide, hard-coded values. Hard-coded values are often a problem, and we're working extensively across Europe, and we're finding a lot of customers are going from maybe a German OS to an English OS with a MUI pack. And actually, that is a big issue. You find a lot of applications that may have hard-coded German paths in there that will not work properly. And we're able to pick those up, and we're able to replace those with a directory property and be able to evaluate them correctly whilst the package is installing and running. Just some examples. This is a project I worked on some time ago. We tested, it's actually 3,500 applications that equated to 4,754 packages, and we found that they had 66% of applications that needed fixing in order to get them to migrate to Windows 7 successfully. We ran the fixing, and after that, 94% were evaluating to green and could be migrated to Windows 7. So that was a really good result there that we managed to get for them. If we look at AppV client compatibility, and we'll take a look at the other types of virtual compatibility as well as we go through. But just focusing in on AppV there, you'll see that the key red issue is really drivers, and I don't think that will be a surprise to anybody on the call. It's our key issue with virtualization, of course, non-supported drivers. After that, the other issues are fixable. Hard-coded references are fixable. Non-supported reboot requirements are fixable. No shortcuts. Well, if the app needs a shortcut, you can add one. So again, that is fixable. Other things that we've come across are Windows Resource Protected files. So things like older versions of system files that are incorporated in the virtual package can cause not only a security risk, as those old system files will not have been able to be patched or updated over the time, therefore they could present a security risk, but also because strangely enough, even though we're using virtual technology, the system files in a virtual bubble can actually conflict with system files running at the same time on the underlying OS. So that is bizarrely one of the common problems that the AppV team report to us, and that thankfully that's something we also have checking for. Now, most people are going to 64-bit on Windows 7, or you're going to be using Windows Server 2008 R2, and the results are similar for Windows Server 2008 R2 as they are to Windows 7 64-bit. And if you take a look at this chart, you'll see that the most significant issue going to 64-bit is unsigned drivers. After that, you've got 16-bit APIs. The other issues are extremely rare. We do occasionally see DirectX video acceleration APIs, and very occasionally we see VDM functions, but I must admit that it is very rare. It's less than 1% that we see VDM functions, but we do see them. With reporting, we can give you red, amber, green reports to allow you to focus effort on red applications, plan your resources more effectively, illustrate application status to the business, and get a detailed understanding of issues. We can also help you estimate the cost and effort associated with migrating. You can use this to calculate the cost savings by using an automation tool, as well as to estimate the total cost and effort of using AOK. So it can be used to build out a business case, which has been very useful. Our reporting can also be used to determine a best fit deployment, so that is another option available. Just in summary then, before we go into the demo, the key focus is obviously to automate as much as possible to make your life simpler and use automated testing and fixing to reduce costs, simplify processes, and speed up deployments. We offer comprehensive cover, so we really can check for most issues when it comes to application and website compatibility across your portfolio. Obviously, we've got the platform testing, the virtual testing, the browser testing. We also can test for dependencies, middleware dependencies, and platform dependencies. And we even have conflict analysis for those apps that can't be virtualized, depending upon the solution that you're using. We also have automated remediation to accelerate fixing, reduce the time and cost, and improve consistency, along with providing a full audit trail. So let's now take a look at a demonstration, and we're going to really focus in on the virtual aspects of AOK today. So let's launch AOK. I think most of you on the session today have seen AOK before, but for those of you who haven't, just a quick intro. Very simple and easy to use solution, and very lightweight to install. It's a .NET based application that uses SQL at the back end. So we can see we're hooked into a SQL Express database, and into that database we then load what we call our reports. Our reports or report groups contain individual checks according to the category that you wish to check for. So if we crack open the Windows 7 report group, the Windows 7 report group contains a series of individual checks, and some of those checks have cog icons against them. Where you see the grey cog icon in the info column, that indicates that we've got automated fixes associated with those checks. The nice thing about this is that our checks are completely open, they're completely visible, and you can actually go in and have a look at what we're looking for. They're also fully described. If we go to the more info column, we can see against the Gina deprecated component that actually we will be reporting a red issue for this particular check. If we find any of the APIs related to Gina, we'll raise a red issue. It also explains why Gina is a problem on Vista and Windows 7, why it was deprecated, and what the risks would be of leaving any Gina issues within the package. If there are automated fixes, they are described in the third paragraph, and if there are no automated fixes, we also advise you on what to do as a next step. So, for example, to get an application upgrade. Let's take a look at another example that does have fixing associated with it. So if we look at the CPL file check, there we can see, if we go to more info, that the fix is to create a Microsoft compliant security manifest to allow the CPL file to behave in the same way as it did on Windows XP. And as I say, you can actually crack open any of these rules. You can go into update, and it tells us what we're looking for, the report procedure we're using, the table and columns in which we're searching, as well as the rules specifically that we're looking for. So clearly when we're loading applications in, we're not just loading in the installer, which is a common misnomer. So we load in each and every detail about every single file so that we can predict what happens at runtime. And that's where you're really getting the value, is that that most of the changes that are made when going to a new platform or going to a new virtual solution are either due to the type of file that is being run or registry keys that are being used, so for example COM+ or DCOM, or it's due to API calls and various different types of module that are being used. And these are all things that we extract and pop into our tables when we load the applications, as you can see here. So our table structure doesn't exactly follow an MSI, it's all tables that are within the MSI plus all of the runtime tables that cover runtime behavior. So those are our reports, and what you can see here on the virtualization level is we've got checks for AppV. So that takes us through everything from active setup detection through to multi-line registry analysis, the obvious one which is the drivers and services that are not supported, right through to the more unusual MMC installations which are not supported, and then the critical check, the Windows Resource Protection scan. So we're going to run some of these against our applications. We also have checks for XenApp hosted and MSRDS. We also have checks for XenApp Streams and Desktop, Symantec Workspace Virtualization, and ThinApp. These all vary in some way, shape, or form. Isolated memory is one of the key checks, as well as shell integration for ThinApp, for example. Whereas for Symantec SWV, you'll find that COM+ is one of the key issues, as is the drivers. So what we're going to do, I'll show you how you can load an application and assess it for compatibility. Let's just drag and drop the Nokia PC suite onto the workbench. There we've got three simple buttons: load it, run it, and fix it. So first of all, we're going to load the Nokia PC suite package into our database. The first thing we're going to notice is that it loads in all of the MSI tables first, and then it starts extracting and processing all of the files and their dependencies. So we can see it sort of churns through all of those files and looks at the header information, the API calls, as well as the 9-level recursive dependency scan. Pulls all that information in so that we can then query it. We can run some checks against it. And once you've got that application loaded in, you'll see we have some icons against it. It will show that we've got dependencies loaded. If we'd loaded a transform, that would also be indicated. And by default, the package will also be checked out to me, so that in a shared environment, not only can I report on this package, I will also be able to remediate it. So that's just going through the final stages of loading, and then we'll be able to run some reports against it. So let's just go ahead and pre-select some reports. We're going to focus in on virtualization today. So I'm going to take AppV. We're also going to take XenApp hosted in RDS. I'm also going to take Zen Desktop. I'm going to take also SWV and ThinApp, as well as the platform checks. And I'm going to check those against a ConvertIt package that I loaded in earlier. I'm going to test it against Nokia, PC Suite, Orca, QuickTime, and RealPlayer. So let's just run those checks against our applications, and we should then get a series of results. Now you can see we're running a significant number of checks. We're running 76 checks against those 5 applications. So that's a lot of processing going on. And for that, we recommend, obviously, that for a live customer deployment or for any significant assessment, you use SQL Standard or Enterprise Edition. SQL Express is obviously limited in the amount of memory it can use, and therefore it will run a lot quicker on SQL Standard or Enterprise. You can see that despite the restrictions in performance, it still runs at a relatively high speed. We've optimized our processing to allow for rapid assessments, and also to allow for rapid remediation. Obviously, when we fix an application, the application then needs to be reloaded and reassessed. So the whole process is a whole lot quicker. So once we've got our results, first thing I normally do is just review the results within the tool and then export the results into reports. So we've now got some results. I'm going to really focus in on those packages, those applications that have issues against them. So first of all, the Nokia PC Suite. If we take a look at that one, we'll see that for AppV, we've got an issue with some DCOM settings within that package. If the distributed COM is being used, those elements of distributed COM will not work with AppV. Distributed COM is not supported by AppV. So you would really want to ask the application owner to test the implementation of the Nokia PC Suite with AppV and test any distributed COM settings. It may be that they don't implement distributed COM and that this is actually never used. But again, it's there, it could be used, and we must report on it because that would cause an issue. There are also hard-coded references that would need to be replaced with directory properties. We also find there's a non-supported reboot requirement that needs to be suppressed. And there are also a number of WRP files. There's an old version of the Microsoft Visual C runtime that has been included by a merge module. Okay, so we can actually remediate a large number of these issues using our automated remediation. For Citrix XenApp hosted in RDS, you can see that we've got elevated privileges found in a manifest file for one of the installer files within that package. And you can also see that there's host detection. So we've actually registered an IP address that appears in HKey local machine. If we take a look at SWV, we can see we've got some 64-bit specific files in that package. We can generally pick those up by the naming conventions in this particular case, but we actually do a much more in-depth check on the file header and the file properties that are being used. For ThinApp, once again, DCOM would cause us issues, so we have to watch out for those types of elements. For Windows 7, however, this application can be fixed, and that's exactly what we're going to do in just a moment. First of all, let's look at some of the different report types. We've got the summary report that shows you an overall summary of the reports that we ran and the results that we got. So we can see the overall summary as well as the summary by report group. So you can see, you get a rough idea as to where the issues are and what the issues are. Okay, so it's very good for sort of looking at the patterns. You can see the number of packages affected by a particular issue, the number of issues overall, and also the rate of fixing, which really comes into its own when we start to look at the Windows 7 checks. There you can see that actually most of those amber issues have 100% fixing against them. You can also apply an individual cost and effort against each check, so that you can sort of look at how long and how much it would cost to do manually, and then you can start to look at the time savings and the cost savings. Another very useful report is the profile report, and this is particularly useful when you want to establish which is the best fit for your environment. So let's just take a look at this particular report, and what we can see is that actually for Windows 7 we don't have any showstoppers for these applications. All of the applications can be remediated. For 64-bit, QuickTime and RealPlayer are presenting some problems, and it's also QuickTime that has issues with ThinApp and with AppV. Nokia PC Suite also has issues for AppV, ThinApp and SWV. So you start to get a flavor for which solutions are going to be best, and so if we look at Citrix XenDesktop, for example, we look at XenApp hosted, we're in pretty good shape there. Symantec SWV is also looking pretty good for this group of applications. You can also look at the status post-fixing, which I think is very useful. You can see that we fixed most of the Windows 7 issues and a lot of the virtual issues as well, virtualization issues. For a more detailed report, we've got the Test It report by red, amber, green. This shows you the issues by status. So red, amber, and any green applications, which we don't have in this group, but any green applications would also be shown at the bottom, and this actually pulls out all of the detail for you. We also have an Excel-based report that's available here, and we have a web-based reporting solution which offers you a drill-down view of any issues that you may see. So you can either search for packages and actually do it that way. So we could search for packages that start with an N, or you can also just look at all of the Windows 7 issues across all the packages. And you can drill down into detail for each issue. You can see if the issues can be automatically fixed, and we've sort of pre-populated this with effort and cost, with 1 hour and with a cost of $50. But obviously you can tweak that and tune that as you see fit. You have a current view and a post-fix view, which is really helpful. And if we go back to the overview, what you can see, if you go to Windows 7, for example, there you can see current view and the post-fix view for those applications. So you can look at the data in a number of different ways, and we're also working on the dashboard-style reporting solution at the moment, which is due for release in the next few months. So watch out for that, and we'll be certainly notifying you once that's in a beta phase. Now let's take a look at fixing. I'm just going to fix up the issues on the applications that we ran, and then we're going to run a couple of applications through VReady-It. We've run some of the testing there. We've seen some of the results. In order to test and fix all of these applications, you can either select all of them and it will fix all of the issues, or you can just select an individual package such as the Nokia PC Suite to fix. So I'm just going to take that package, we're going to run the fixing, and that fixing will create a transform file and it will log any fix changes in the log file and as well as in the package history. What we're going to do after that is we're going to use the VReady-It solution to convert a couple of packages across into virtual formats. And currently we're supporting AppV and Symantec SWV, and you can choose which solution you would like to use using the VReady-It tab, which is available in the options menu. So in just a moment we'll go in and have a look at that, and then we'll take a look at converting those packages. So you can see once we've applied the fixing, we have to reload the package, so we're processing the dependencies again, and then we need to rerun the reports. So that will just take a few moments to run through. And if you have any questions on this process, I'm not going to go into the fix logic in any detail now. It's really just to show you the process and how it works. So some of the packages I'd like to use for the conversion, pretty much any packages can be converted across, but I'm going to use Orca and QuickTime to convert them into virtual packages. So now we're just rerunning the reports. That's the last stage of the fix process, just to rerun the report so we get the latest status back up. And since we've got 70-something reports, that's why it's taking a few moments more than normal. There we go, it's completed now. So it's just going to refresh the view. And now for the Nokia PC Suite package, we've still got some of those virtual issues, but actually most of them have been fixed, and certainly all of the Windows 7 issues have been fixed. This UAC issue on dp-inst clearly needs to be left, because we will need UAC for any installer type packages. Let's now take a look at VReady-It. VReady-It is a module that was released with version 4.1 of AOK back in May. And when you install VReady-It, it basically installs what we call an add-in. Let's just take a look there. An add-in is something that integrates with AOK. It can be something you've written yourself, it can be something we've written, and it can be used in a number of different ways. VReady-It is basically a context-based add-in that allows us to create a right-click handler. You can choose between the virtualization tools that you would like to use. So you could have used Symantec SWV or AppV. And if we take AppV, for example, you can also configure which image you would like to use. You could, from a virtual machine, the username and password for that image, as well as the export folder and the mount point, and you can set different timeout settings depending upon what you need. Once you've configured that, we're comfortable that we're going to be accessing the right levels of information. You can select one or more packages, and in the interest of time, I'm just going to select one for this particular case and use VReady-It. VReady-It will basically convert an application into a virtual package, and we use a number of different approaches. So I'll just wait for the virtual machine to start, and then we can watch it go through as it manages the capture process. Now, for Symantec SWV, we found that the command line provided was actually pretty extensive, and we managed to utilize that successfully to run the virtual composer. And however, for AppV, we found that the sequencer has a pretty rich interface that wasn't mirrored with the command line approach. So we actually use it's like a software emulation solution. As you can see, this is actually hands-free, and this solution is just walking through the various different steps. We could actually run this completely silently and get obviously the same results. And the whole idea is that you would run this against multiple applications and be able to convert them into virtual apps dynamically. So normally, in fact, I was talking to a customer a few weeks ago now, and they're going to SWV, and they spent about a month with 5 packages creating virtual packages for 100 applications. We actually took 10 of their applications and converted them into virtual packages in the space of, must have been slightly less than half an hour. Obviously, it depends on the size of the app. Obviously, the app needs to install. But when you consider that, we could have actually done all 100 of those applications within a normal working day. Obviously, the response was twofold. First of all, probably quite disappointed that they'd spent that amount of time on doing those apps manually, but also delighted that we now have a solution that allows us to convert applications into virtual formats automatically. Packaging is always something that is a process that often we want to be involved with, but more on the sort of strategic level of resolving problems rather than doing the day-to-day packaging work. So here you can see we've created a virtual package. We've created an SFT file, the OSD, the project file, and so AOK has been successfully converted across. That's now ready for deployment. You can have a fully remediated package that's now ready for deployment. For now, I'd just like to thank you very much for your time today, and we look forward to hearing back from you soon and working with you in the future. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.